everyone, this is Frozen 2 Fan 2004 here, and welcome to my very first top 10 list, and this is going to be my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I'm sure you guys already know what my list is if you know me so well, but I just wanted to make a video out of this for content purposes, and just a heads up, I'm a recency bias type of person, so don't expect some classic movies in here, just accept the kind of taste in movies I have. So, here is my top 10 favorite movies of all time, but first, let me give you 5 honorable mentions. Spirited Away, Inception, The Batman, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Avengers: Infinity War. Coming in at number 10 is Avengers: Endgame. I know some of my closest Instagram friends watching this may be shocked. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is on my honorable mentions and not on the top 10 list when it initially was. Multiverse of Madness is still the best superhero movie of 2022, but rethinking about it, Avengers: Endgame is better. I know a lot of people say this movie is overrated just like Black Panther, but I don't care. This movie is a perfect finale to the Infinity Saga. It gives you all the feels, leaves you on the edge of your seat, and has one of the most emotional endings ever. The final battle will always be the best MCU action scene ever. I love this movie 3000, and it gladly deserves to be on this list. I'm thinking of putting this higher up on the list, but not now, since I need to rewatch it first. Coming in at number 9 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is probably the most shocking appearance on this list. I never thought I would put a kind of film like this in my top 10 favorite movies of all time list, but when I saw this movie in theaters, it absolutely hit me with all the feels. It was a mind-blowing experience from start to finish with one of the most original stories ever told. It's very funny as well, especially the Ratatouille reference. The third act is very emotional and heartwarming as well. This is the best A24 movie ever made, and no other A24 films come close. Coming in at number 8 is The Northman. This is my favorite movie of 2022 so far, and for good reasons. Probably the best independent film ever made in my opinion. Anya Taylor-Joy is one of my favorite actresses of all time alongside Kristen Bell and Ana de Armas. Olga is my favorite character of 2022 so far, and my second favorite performance she did behind Beth Harmon from The Queen's Gambit. Yes, I may review that show sometimes. Putting Anya aside, everything else about this film works perfectly, and I shall review this film very soon. I'm not saying I only love this film just because Anya Taylor-Joy, but this movie is one of filmmaking at its finest and a very exhilarating experience. Coming in at number 7 is Knives Out. Daniel Craig is my favorite actor of all time, and I think this is easily his best non-Bond performance. I just love his Kentucky accent and seeing how much fun he plays the detective role. But other than Daniel Craig, there's more things to love about Knives Out. This is one of the most brilliant movies I've ever seen. Rian Johnson is such an underrated director, and has such a brilliant take on the murder mystery genre. The protagonist isn't the detective but rather the witness of the murder, which is clever. And speaking of that, Ana de Armas is easily the best aspect of the film. She is a perfect character. The movie is just a brilliant and entertaining thrill ride from start to finish, and I cannot wait for Knives Out 2 this year, even if it might not be as good as this masterpiece. This is my second favorite movie of 2019, which I think is the best year ever. Coming in at number 6 is Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse. This is the Spider-Man movie we never knew we deserved until it came out. I was actually excited for this movie ever since the trailer dropped, but I was never ready for this movie end up being one of my favorite movies of all time and my favorite movie of 2018. Well, at that time, Infinity War was my favorite movie of 2018, but now it's Spider-Verse. Of course, there is the revolutionary animation that influenced some other animated films to use the comic book animation style. But besides the style, there is substance as well. It is a film that absolutely understands who Spider-Man is and does his character justice while also having a lot more different versions of Spider-Man. I believe this is the movie that influenced the multiverse storyline, introducing different variations of Spider-Man. Gwen Stacy aka Spider-Gwen is the best variation of Spider-Man. You can't convince me otherwise. I never thought this would be dethroned as the best Spider-Man movie, until 3 years later. Coming in at number 5 is Zootopia. This is probably the oldest movie on my list, and this is one of the movies I've been rewatching ever since its release. I thought this movie was pretty good when I saw it in theaters for the first time, but upon seeing it again on the Disney Cruise theaters, I fell in love with it. And now, it has grown to be one of my favorite movies of all time and the best movie of 2016. Judy Hopps is one of my favorite protagonists of all time and probably the cutest character ever. Bellwether is such an underrated villain, and I'm in the minority for liking her. The animation is gorgeous for its time, but the writing is what made this film truly special. It's an absolutely original story with, in my opinion, the best message ever put to film. Disney is not afraid to politics in it, and I think this film did it perfectly. Try Everything is one of the most underrated Disney songs ever. It should have been nominated for Best Original Song. Coming in at number 4 is Spider-Man: No Way Home. Not only is this the best Spider-Man movie and the best MCU movie, but I think it's the greatest comic book movie ever made. I would acknowledge that Into the Spider-Verse is better on an objective level, but I'm more passionate towards No Way Home as an MCU fan and Spider-Man fan. It made a bigger impact on me than Spider-Verse. I'm not a type of person who judges movies based on nostalgia, but No Way Home is the best way to cater to nostalgia you can ever find. It is literally a fan's dream come true to see all three major Spider-Man actors all on the big screen working together, and the cameos in this movie are not just cameos, but they leave an impact to the story. Tobey Maguire is what everyone cheers for, but Andrew Garfield was the standout Peter Parker as he had a redeeming arc that satisfied everyone. It is packed with action, emotion, real stakes, and consequences, and that's why No Way Home is the best superhero movie ever made. Coming in at number 3 is Encanto. Man, this movie has got to be one of the biggest surprises ever. I was excited for this film, but only because it's a Disney movie. I was not prepared for what this film ended up being. An absolute masterpiece of a film that has changed my life. This is easily the best animated film of this decade and my second favorite animated film of all time. This is one of the most magical Disney films ever. Mirabel is one of my favorite Disney protagonists ever, even if I do prefer Judy Hopps in my opinion. The film has such a heartwarming story that actually made me tear up. The animation is beyond. Stay tuned for more videos to come and more lists to make. Bye guys. Entire film. We Don't Talk About Bruno is my favorite song of that whole film. I also love Surface Pressure. What Else Can I Do? And Waiting on a Miracle. And my favorite scene in the film is Abu El Alma's backstory. I love how dark and tragic it is. I was requested to review this film on July when I was planning to review it on November for its first anniversary, and I am so excited for it. Coming in at number 2 is No Time to Die. This is easily the best movie of last year and the best movie of the decade so far. This is also the best live-action movie I have ever seen. James Bond is one of my favorite franchises of all time. I absolutely adore the Daniel Craig era of Bond, like Casino Royale, Skyfall, and yes, even Spectre, but No Time to Die plunges all those films for me. This is an absolute perfect conclusion to Daniel Craig's era with such an emotional beat to it, a very sharp story, a complete character arc for Bond. The ending is the saddest scene in film history. No other movie has left me depressed more than that ending, and this has some of the best action scenes I have ever seen, period. Paloma is the best Bond girl ever and easily the best thing about the film, as well as one of my favorite characters of all time. Madeline Swan is also one of my favorite characters of all time, and Safin is such an underrated villain. This is a perfect conclusion to the Bond franchise, and Bond 26 is probably my most anticipated movie of all time if it happens. Coming in at number 1 is Frozen 2. I think everyone knows me so well by being the biggest fan of this movie, and my opinion hasn't changed ever since. I think I pretty much explained why this is the best movie I've ever seen, and I could make more video essays about this in the future. Frozen 2 absolutely changed my life forever, and I wouldn't have had my fans, and I wouldn't have been the person I am today if not for my love for this film. So, that is why Frozen 2 is the number 1 best movie of all time. So, that concludes my top 10 best movies of all time. What is your top 10 favorite movies of all time list? Please let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, stay tuned for more videos to come and more lists to make. Bye guys.